Hi everyone, for the final project and assignment in the mythology unit, you are going to be doing a research-based project on some aspect of mythology that you're interested in. So you can pick the focus of the project. However, you need what's called a guiding question. And a guiding question is just your topic formulated as a question. So the purpose then of your essay will be to answer that question. So it helps you focus your essay. It helps provide a little more goal-driven essay as opposed to just a report where you're just talking about a myth. So you're really being active about answering that question. So you can choose your own question. You can create your own version of that, or you can choose something from the list I have below. Make sure when you're thinking about your question, your guiding question, it's not too narrow or too broad. So too narrow is something that would be very easy to answer and very simplistic of a paper. So something like, was Odysseus the king of Ithaca? Yes, he was. That was the myth. That was his role as king. He lived in Ithaca. That would be a very simplistic essay. Couldn't even really be an essay. It would really just be a one sentence. Yes, he was the king of Ithaca. So that would be too narrow of a guiding question. Too broad of a guiding question would be something like, what is mythology? That is way too big to even tackle and handle because it would cover too many different cultures, too many different philosophies. It would just be too difficult to answer, especially in a 2 to 3 page essay. And you want to be sure that you know your answer after you research. You may not know the answer, and it's best to not know the answer to your question when you start your research. You may have an inkling, you may have an idea, but you don't want to have a solid answer. That is what research is for. You are looking up and trying to find your answer, and then you are talking about that in your essay. So some of the things that you can choose are right here. And again, you can come up with your own. That last one, think of a topic, pitch me an idea, make sure it's in the form of a question. So this is like Jeopardy. We want everything to be in the form of a question. So some of your choices that I came up with that kids have done in the past are modern myths and where did they originate. So think witchcraft. Yes, it's a few hundred years old. Or you can choose like a more modern witchcraft, like a Wiccan type of religion. But it's definitely more recent than ancient Greek or Roman mythology. Think about Loch Ness Monster, ghosts, paranormal, superstitions, things like that. So you could cover more modern myths and where did they come from. The science behind Greek myths, and I would pick 1 or 2 to really focus on, but it's a very interesting, there's been a lot of studies from the science community about how and why the ancient Greeks and Romans in that time period, even ancient Egyptians, Norse, how they came up with their myths and that there really was a solid reason for it. For example, with the Odysseus and Polyphemus, the Cyclops, they feel and they have discovered that there was a flower that women would eat if they were having preterm labor back in ancient Greek times. If they were having trouble with their pregnancy, they would find that this flower, they would eat that, and it would actually help and make them feel better and kind of calm down some contractions and some of the nausea that they would feel. However, the flower was toxic. Of course, they didn't really know that, and it caused birth defects. And one of the birth defects it caused was a very enlarged head, sort of a encephalitis, where it would be like a swelling of the head, of the baby's head. And it would cause some feature deformities, including eyes. And sometimes the eyes would not develop correctly, or only one eye would develop. And so these babies would not live, and people would have found these skulls of these enlarged heads with maybe just one eye socket or maybe a deformed eye socket. It would be in the wrong place. Something like that, and they created a story of where did this human-like skull come from, and they would have come up with the idea of a cyclops, a one-eyed creature. So there's a whole science behind the Greek myths. You could also tackle afterlife and death and how that's handled across various cultures. There's a lot of commonality in what happens after death with every major religion really has a lot of the same philosophies and a lot of the same ideas. So that might be something you want to tackle. How was medicine used in mythology? Ancient, even through like the medieval ages, how dentistry was handled is just horrific. It is just a nightmare of tools, and they used to take teeth from someone, like poor people would pay to have their teeth kind of ripped out, and then they would just put that tooth in someone else's mouth and cement it in with this paste. It was just horrible. People had wooden teeth. So you could look into medicine and what medical practices were back then. You can look at myths in modern day, like how we still focus on art, music, consumerism. The Nike symbol, that swoosh, is directly from ancient Greek myth, and that was the character whose job it was to be the messenger. And he would have little wings on the back of his feet, and the wings were shaped like that Nike swoosh symbol. And his job was to deliver messages, and so he had to be very fast and quick. So you could focus on how myths show up in modern day. Even cars use ancient Greek mythology in their names frequently. Toyota had the Odyssey, the van, which was an Odyssey. There's a couple others, can't think of them right now, but they have a lot of ties back to ancient mythology. You can look at religion and how just in general religion can be viewed as mythology. If you are religious, you can look into your religion and the history and the origin and how your religion has changed over time. You can look at similarities and differences across cultures and their mythology and find some connections. You can look at astrology and how it's connected to mythology, so anything like that. Those are just some ideas. You can certainly pitch me your own topic and your own idea. Your guidelines. You are writing a 2 to 3 page paper. Your paper has to have a cover page, has to have intro, body paragraphs, and a conclusion, just like the essays we've done, and it has to have a works cited page. You decide if you are doing just the must-do assignment, you need a 2-page typed, double space, 12 font, Arial or Times New Roman only, and do not skip an extra space in between the paragraphs. Must do is 2 full, complete pages to that bottom of that page. Should do assignment is 3 pages, and that should be to the bottom of that 3rd page. You will need to have a cover page, as I said, and a works cited page of at least 2 sources. I would think if you're doing the should do assignment, you would probably want 3 sources, but if you find 2 really great ones and you can pull a lot of quotes and information from there, then you are welcome to. You need at least 2. Use the notes from the Telltale Heart to make sure you've got a really interesting intro and an interesting conclusion, so it is not just kind of boring to read or difficult to write. Use some of those things that we've already gone over. Okay? I have a couple other videos to help you on writing and improving your writing and strengthening your writing, but the overview of the project is this. Choose a guiding question and look up and find the answer. All right, let me know if you have questions, and good luck.